Hello, everybody, and welcome to another week of the Enough to Keep Going podcast. This is DBQ Hams coming to you here on the beginning of April. This is not April 1st, so we fortunately skipped all those lovely April Fool's internet jokes and silent protests on our Reddit, our gaming. So there was a time when April Fool's jokes seemed on the internet like it was something new and fresh, and this year maybe it's because it's spent out. Maybe this year people didn't try as hard. Maybe we've seen it all. Maybe I shouldn't say that we're better off and more well informed, because there's plenty of documentation around there that we still believe and repost plenty of information. But I'll step off my soapbox for a minute and get back onto the EKG Old Man Gamer Front Porch to talk with the two old men joining me tonight. Osiris Prime, how are you doing, sir?
I am doing well, finally. I was off the last couple weeks, actually last week because of sickness, but I think I'm all right now. Might be a little coughing today, but I'll try to mute myself before I get too crazy.
Yeah, you don't sound stuffed up at all. You sound really good. That's great.
Good.
Excellent. And from the other side of the country, from his cranky old man shaking his stick front porch rocking chair, is Swissguard. How are you, Mr. Swissguard?
I'm enjoying the loss of April Fool's jokes, because I'm tired of unfunny people trying to be funny once every year.
Yeah, there is that. Yep. Although I can remember a time when, right, I can remember being a kid and opening up the April edition of EGM and being so sure that, what, Xiao Lang or Shay Feng, or, the mystery shadow character, back when those things were new and unknown, and there wasn't an internet to spoil all of those jokes for us. So,
well, I must say, though, I did hit it once, because at work I had to search something on Google for like a server thing, and landed on Stack Overflow, and they had it all in Comic Sans with unicorn tile backgrounds and rainbow dust pointers. And when you're trying to troubleshoot something and you hit that, it doesn't make you feel good.
I bet it doesn't. It frustrates you when it's not actually the help that you're looking for.
No.
So tonight is our deep dive episode, gentlemen. We are looking back at the week that was. We are back in the week of March 25th, I believe, if we go back 1 week from today in our Wayback Machine, March 26th, which puts us at the end of GDC, before PAX East happens. We had the Stadia announcement from Google, which we talked about 2 weeks ago, and now we get another announcement, which was scheduled from Apple. And this, gentleman, is the announcement of a couple different things, including Apple credit card and Apple News Plus, where you could subscribe to all-you-can-eat magazines without a whole lot of bookmarking or other pieces. But that's the librarian in me talking. Let's go to the gaming piece of this. They also announced Apple Arcade, and I started off with our old man rocking on our front porch, shaking our stick at those young kids and their mobile devices, because I want to see where this discussion goes. Because the Apple Arcade, so this is not going to be a streaming. This is going to be a paid subscription service with a curated catalog of games. They announced a number of individual developers that will be bringing over their games, both some original games and some new games. We have Lego, we've got Sega, we've got Konami, we've got Annapurna Games, and a couple others as well. And the big kind of selling point here, I guess I'll say a couple big selling points, and I'll be curious if you think any of these are selling points. Is one, it'll work across your Apple devices, so your iPhone, your iPad, it'll work on your Mac, and it will also work on your Apple TV. So all the games will run on any of those, which also then potentially tells us something about the types of games that we might be getting. These are also going to be games that will be ad free, or they will be kind of microtransactions. The pay to win model will not be as heavy there. There may still be some microtransactions. Hasn't really been clear about that, but it will be. You won't be. It will be ad free, is what the distinction will be. Is that you won't be getting those 30-second pop up ads before you can refill your stamina to keep going.
It does say no in-app purchases, so I don't know if that's. I don't know how you would take that on the actual site itself. So.
Okay, well that's good to know. That does make me wonder. Then are we getting? Because the way they've described it is it's not just games made specifically for this platform, but it'll be games that might be out there already within the Apple infrastructure that could be brought over to this paid service as well.
Yep.
Which again, potentially they strip some of those things out. Another way that they could approach this is what Amazon did a while ago with the Amazon Underground app. So if you had a Kindle, they basically had at Amazon Prime, you had a variety of Kindle games that were free, and all microtransactions within them were also then completely free as well. So you could get, granted this was back when Jetpack Joyride was actually a thing, and I remember my kids downloading coin pack after coin pack because they were free. So this was, this strikes me as something very similar, where it's a curated and kind of walled off area within an existing mobile infrastructure. The difference between the Apple infrastructure, the iOS infrastructure, and Kindle's kind of side branch Android is that there's actually a plethora of games, and development is often primarily or at least dominantly within this infrastructure as well. So that kind of gives us a little bit of what the Apple Arcade tries to do. My question for you gentlemen is, one, I mean, that's not a question. First, I don't know that any of us are lifelong Mac conversionists, Apple enthusiasts, that maybe this is not the crowd that we're talking to, but let me ask you, if you think there's an audience for this, we're all parents, right? Like, is there an audience to pay X amount of dollars a month to strip away in-app purchases, to strip away ads, to not have to deal with that, or the potential of that being for not only yourself and the interruption of gameplay, but also for your kids as well? So that's the question. Is there a market for this? And I'm positioning that this market is probably just as much for families as it is, and more so than it is for any type of traditional gamer.
I suppose there is somewhat of a market, if a parent doesn't want to have to micromanage what sorts of games are being downloaded to their devices, right? You can just pay the service fee and go in the arcade and have fun, right? The simplicity of that has an appeal, I think, to a family audience or a more casual audience, and the fact that they're titling it arcade, I think, really indicates that that's the direction they want to go in. It'll probably carve out its niche. If Apple pushes it, there's a lot of devices out there that are going to be exposed to it. So I don't think it's going to be like disappear. But do I feel like we're suddenly going to start seeing something like this eat away at more conventional games, or even really be considered a competition for Google Stadia? I don't think so. I think it's kind of a different. I feel like it's targeting a different group of people.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I don't see it at all as a competition for Stadia, right? This is very different. The idea for Stadia is that you are streaming, full AAA games along with indie titles, it is its own platform, where this is, well, it is its own platform. These are games that you would then be downloading and not streaming, regardless of the device, whether it's your Apple TV. But again, it also tells me kind of about, I think your arcade analogy is pretty apt, because if something is going to be able to run on an Apple TV, it is installing locally there rather than streaming it. So it's not even like it's going to be a server based platform there, or even the potential for it at this stage. So
I do think they said that, and you may have mentioned this. I'm sorry. You will be able to play the games without an internet connection.
There's offline play. Yep.
Yeah. I don't think I've specifically said offline, right? But the idea is that you are downloading them locally to whatever device you're going to be playing. So yeah, that makes sense, right? I think again it goes back to that idea of this is targeted at a more casual audience, and whether it is parents, or it is the millions upon people that have iPhones and are sitting and waiting in line at the grocery store or any other place, that they could be picked up at. So I think not the device is picked up, but at least sitting in and picking up a game. I do think the arcade aspect of this has the potential to find a solid and consistent subscription audience. I think it'll be really interesting to see what the active user base looks like, right? Because I could see if Apple does push this, it would be relatively easy for people to add it into their already existing list of Apple services that they pay for on a yearly basis, whether it's Apple Music or something else, where it just becomes one other charge that's coming off your Apple account. The question is how much use it'll get, and where that is. Prime, do you think that this, something like this, takes a bite out of kind of the mess or the morass that is mobile game store marketplaces, where if you have this walled garden, the discoverability suddenly for a publisher becomes a little better than trying to break through on the front page, or be discovered within the clones that exist within mobile gaming?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it all depends on, because this is Apple once again curating all this. So you already have that curation just in their big pool of stuff. So it's a little bit better than, say, like Google Play, Android phones. So there's already one kind of filter, and now this is another filter on top of that. And the question is, are they gonna give it, sometimes the spotlight to the little guy, and say like I don't even know. I don't play a lot of mobile games, so I can't even tell you like the little guys on mobile side. But are they going to give it to those smaller studios and let them have their their time to shine? I was kind of looking at some of the the list of games right here, and I mean a lot of these I've never even heard of. Where Cards Fall and the Pathless. Obviously Lego. I mean Lego's a good brand. Obviously you're gonna throw that out there, but they have Oceanhorn 2, which I think I remember seeing something about Oceanhorn like originally. So.
Yeah, I think that's a new announcement that Oceanhorn 2 is coming. Oceanhorn is that kind of 3D Zelda-like Wind Waker type of game.
Yeah, I guess it's just going to kind of depend, I guess, on what the games they're trying to throw out there. Are they going to try to say, hey, this is our gaming platform, so I want to try to throw out these big name titles out there, or are they going to? It kind of looks like they're trying to go the other way though, and just kind of doing little indie stuff. Obviously, that's only going to be able, that you can play on, little bite-sized, few minute chunks here and there. So, I guess it all depends on how they market everything, and not just the games themselves, but this whole service as a whole. Are they going to try to say, hey, this is our gaming thing, this is, hopefully they don't go the way of, hey, drop your console or your PC or stuff like that, because I think that would be kind of dumb to do that, because obviously this is something like totally different, and obviously there's, at least in the gaming community, there's always that ill will with mobile games, and people kind of just turn their nose at it. It's a mobile game, so it's no good. But I mean, there's good mobile games out there. There always have been. I think just generally, everybody always sees like kind of the shovelware that's out there of sorts. And even in Apple, you kind of see that there's kind of, junk stuff and clones, like you said, there's clones out there, pretty much any game you could think of, Call of Duty, obviously there's like probably a million Battle Royale games out there and stuff like that. So it all depends on the marketing. I mean, there's some good things on the service. If I was an Apple person, I think I would, probably sign up for this and have my kid, it is an easy way just to say, okay, here, you can play these games as long as you're, I'm assuming logged into the service. I guess the other thing was that did they give a price at all, or right? I don't think I've seen one.
No price on this. Just like Google Stadia, no price on that either.
Right. All right. And this is coming. Okay, so it's coming this fall, so sometime during the big gaming season, I suppose. But
I think you're right. I mean, I don't see this and anything in that announcement that really positions it within that idea that it's a console replacement, right? This is.
No.
I can remember an Apple press conference where they got up on stage with a remote for the new Apple TV that had gyro sensors in it and played, the Wii Sports knockoff and talked about Apple TV being a gaming device or the potential for it, right? Which, again, Apple's path in terms of long-term support for gaming initiatives is even more spotty than Google. So I think that the way that, if Swiss is correct, the language and the nomenclature around an arcade where you're going to come in, browse a little bit, play a little bit of a bunch of different things, on your way through the mall, right? That kind of arcade aspect is potentially incredibly apt here, because it may be what this service provides is a place to go get some of that curated material, maybe discover a few things, but not someplace where you're setting down hours upon hours. The question that I haven't seen this yet, but I'm assuming that because it would also work on a MacBook and also your Apple TV, that it would support games with controller support as well, right? So it would have Bluetooth tethered, or at least the ability if those games had them. So I do wonder how that would work for games that are more touch interface versus games that are non-touch interface, and if that just becomes subcategories within the store. So we'll see. Any other thoughts related to this, gentlemen?
No, I mean, just like if I was an Apple person, like I said, if I was an Apple person, I think I'd definitely sign up for this. Now you do get 6 family members on one account, so I mean that's actually pretty generous, to be honest with you. That up to 6 people can in one household can use the service. I'm assuming is what they're saying here. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to see how it all pans out.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly see a use for it, right? I've got family members who their younger kids have their hand-me-down iPad minis, right? And that goes back to that idea that you both talked about in terms of being able to turn over the device and have a sense of what they're playing and have that walled-off garden aspect. So let's go ahead. Swiss, do you have any final thoughts here?
I was just going to say, it'd be interesting to see if they allow it to wither on the vine, or if they, support it long term. But the games kind of have that artsy feel, and they were already kind of marketing them that way. So I feel like they are trying to carve out a sustainable niche. Like you said, they're not going up there and claiming, oh, you don't need Nintendo and Sony and Microsoft anymore now that Apple Arcade's here. So tentatively, I think that it could work if they keep it their perspective on what it is and who they're trying to appeal to. So
I think the question of sustainability is also one that I was thinking about today, related to when does this become profitable, and how much of it is about kind of the profits, and how much of it is related to just keeping people within their infrastructure, right? If it's one more reason to stay within the Apple product line, as you convert from phone to phone. But I do wonder if and this was an article that was on the Motley Fool, which is kind of an investment and business site, related to the amount of money that they may bring in within a monthly or yearly subscription, and how that will end up comparing to the percentage cut that they would take out of the App Store for those same types of games. We know, I was going to say, we have information. We know that there are plenty of whales out there that keep everybody else afloat in terms of the mobile gaming market. And if some of those games, or if those are the games that don't get pulled into the service because the revenue stream is too high from their existing kind of microtransaction models, or if by the nature of what we're saying, as what you said, is there's not going to be any microtransactions, it means that games are developed specifically for the arcade, and maybe there is a free version that gets pushed back out into the other, into the general populace later on. So I'm curious to see how they parse that out, and what that financially looks like as well.
Yeah, I guess that's actually something I didn't think about. Is do you think this is gonna kind of gut out the free, I guess you want to call it, games and stuff, or I mean, is there going to be more crap that's going to show up on there because they won't kind of look on that side so much because they're trying to focus on their walled garden within the walled garden of games with the service?
Wouldn't you?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, wouldn't it seem like Apple Arcade becomes the official game platform, and then the App Store just is like the rest of it? Like didn't they have that problem with Steam? Like you had Steam Greenlight or whatever, and I don't think it was Steam Greenlight. Well, yeah, that was when like people could kind of just throw up whatever they wanted, and then if it got popular enough, it would be promoted to like the main curated Steam, right? Maybe there's going to be not a perfect analogy, but somewhat of that dynamic of a professional Apple game area and the minor leagues or whatever you want to call it.
It might be. I mean, I think the difference will be is I wonder where the premium game goes then at that stage, right? I think about I played Civilization 6 on my iPad. I played NBA 2K on my iPad. Both games are a premium price. Square releases a ton of games for mobile devices at a premium price. Do those still kind of linger out there? I mean, it really creates an even broader divide between those that are charging that premium out in the general store, and those that are free but not good enough to be put into the curated collection. Yeah, I mean, I guess that these are this is what makes it interesting. This is what makes it a deep dive conversation, is that we have some information. We're not sure what it's all going to and how it's going to shake out. But again, I think the nice thing about this is that it's one more way for kind of the gaming market to expand, mature, to acknowledge that we don't all have to be the same. We don't all have to be pushing the same Ubisoft game right away in the beginning. Not that that's bad, but it's good to be able to carve out and acknowledge that this is a diverse market, as a media, as a hobby, as an entertainment, just like any other form of entertainment. So let's go ahead and move on, and we're going to move off of Apple, and we're going to turn to a couple of PAX East announcements. So PAX East, oof, I almost said that right, but happened this past weekend. There were a lot of a little more look and peeks at a number of different games. Saw some good articles out there around some indie games that drew some people's attention. People that got a chance to play a little bit of some VR. Got some new VR announcements coming out of Valve. We got the PlayStation state of play announcements with my PSVR back here, with a couple of games, some hands-on pieces that came out related to an Iron Man game on PSVR made by Camouflage, the makers of Republic. Ryan Payton, who was formerly both at Halo and both at Bungie and at Gray Fox, Konami's studios for Metal Gear. But those are not the announcements that we want to talk about. So I'm going to turn it over to these two fine gentlemen to tell me some other announcements that got their attention here at PAX East. So Osiris Prime, you have an announcement. You have a news story of basically simply just an announcement. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6 from our good friends at Bethesda, who have been doing a fine job lately on releasing games. We found out that these two games will not be at E3 2019. Shocking, I know. Actually, it is kind of shocking for Starfield, I think, because I know they had mentioned that Starfield is their next game that they'll be releasing, next major game from Todd Howard's game studio, Bethesda Game Studios. And then, Elder Scrolls 6 was, sometime after that. But I found it kind of interesting that they're saying that even Starfield is not going to show up at all.
But don't we know that Starfield is going to be a next generation game? And so if there's not an announcement of next generation consoles, how can there be an announcement about next generation games?
Yeah, but I guess they did officially say it wasn't a next gen game, wasn't it? So, I mean, I guess that does kind of make sense now, and maybe that also says to E3 that maybe there's not going to be any console announcements, or at least from Microsoft, since obviously Sony's not going to be there. But so, because obviously Bethesda has been working kind of hand in hand with Microsoft a little bit more than Sony the last few years, actually probably more than a few years. So I guess it's not too big of a surprise. But I just thought there'd be at least something about Starfield, because other than those two games, I shouldn't say other than those two games, but obviously those are the big ones. But they have Doom Eternal coming out, and Rage 2, I guess, but I think that's going to be out.
Wolfenstein Youngblood, right?
But those two should be out before then, though, wouldn't they?
Rage will be out before E3. Wolfenstein, I think, comes out this summer at some point. We gave a date. I think it's shortly right after. It's toward the end of June. I think it's
okay. I thought it was earlier than that for some reason. All right, so I guess they have those three potential games. I mean, they can still talk about Rage 2, I suppose. Once that comes around, but it's kind of a bummer. But I mean, at least for me, obviously. I mean, I guess they have Elder Scrolls Blades, which is their mobile game that came out on beta, I believe, on Android, and I'm not sure if iOS 2 or not, but I did download it. I just haven't had a chance to play it yet, mostly because you need a Bethesda account, and I have no idea what email I use for that account, and I don't know. I had some other troubles.
From the man that owns like 6 different versions of Skyrim.
I know. Well, I mean, I never used any of the mod stuff, so yeah, I don't know. Whatever. I'll get it figured out at some point eventually. And plus, I was trying to do it on my phone, and it's a little bit more of a hassle trying to, sign up. Or actually, I think I even tried to sign up again, and it was saying, "Oh, hey, this is already being used." So I was like, "Okay, I guess I did use it at some point." So I have to figure it out. But yeah, no Starfield and no Elder Scrolls, unfortunately. It's a bummer. But I guess the other small announcement that they called out here during their panel was Shirley Curry, who I guess is a 82-year-old YouTuber that she likes to play Skyrim, and she's going to be somehow put into the next Elder Scrolls game. So there is that also. So for those Curry fans out there, but.
And on that big piece of news, let's go over to another announcement about an announcement. So Swiss, you've got another PAX panel, and this one I will refrain from doing any magic tricks, and hopefully our technology, we do not run into the same problems that Gearbox did. But no stalling, no more stalling for me. So what are the Gearbox announcements?
Mayhem is coming. So Gearbox announced Borderlands 3. Makes me happy. So I guess there's been rumors for a long time that was coming. So I don't think people were terribly surprised. They're just happy that it happened. So when they announced the game, no platforms mentioned, no release date mentioned, and I guess according to this Kotaku article, they mentioned it will be out within the fiscal year, which ends next April. However, and I know we don't really report on rumors, but they posted something to the official Borderlands. They tweeted to the official Borderlands Twitter account, and there was something in there that looked like an Epic Game Store logo and a date of September 13th. So it's rumor, so take it for what it's worth, but it did kind of originate on this Borderlands Twitter account. So people are thinking maybe it's going to be on Epic Game Store, at least for PC, and that it will be coming this fall, which would be cool. So it looks like it will take place after the first two games. Saw references to a lot of characters that have already been in the game. Claptrap makes an appearance, so they're not completely going off the rails there. And people are kind of thinking that it looks like the environments seemed a lot more varied than like they did in Borderlands 2. So perhaps they're going to go to some other planets, but who knows? It just might be different regions or something.
I think they did use the word worlds at one
Okay.
point in time through the. They didn't say anything or spell that out in any way or fashion, but that was a phrase that was used.
But yeah, I mean, it looks like classic Borderlands. You know, I think they said 1 billion with the B guns combinations, and you got your quartet of heroes that it looks like you can play with. So it's finally coming. The other announcement or thing that's coming down the pike is, and I hope this is the one you're alluding to, is the Borderlands remaster, the original Borderlands. Is that what you're wanting to discuss?
No, I think there's
That's
4
coming out
different
in a couple of days. I
Borderlands
think
announcements. So
Right,
yes,
what's the other one?
the Borderlands 1 remaster is coming tomorrow, actually, on
Right,
April
it's really
3rd.
close.
And that includes all of the DLC, so the 4 different packs there with the original Claptrap's Revolution and a zombie Halloween one. I'm trying to even remember way back in the original Borderlands what those 4 packs were. General Knox's Armory or something like that. So that is there. They also announced that there's a 4K. It's almost I do wonder if it's almost too much Borderlands. So at the same time that they're releasing Borderlands 1 remaster, that they're also releasing a 4K patch for the Handsome Collection. So for the Handsome Collection, which is the remasters on PS4 and Xbox One for Borderlands 2, along with all the DLC and the pre-sequel. And also on PC, if you own those games, you will get a free 4K texture packs to go with them as well. On the consoles, they will have HDR, but not on the PC. So you've got those announcements, and then the one that kind of snuck by me, but I saw on the Gearbox thread, was that Borderlands VR, Borderlands 2 VR, is also getting all the DLC packs for free this summer. So that was one of the things that was not announced when they did the VR conversion for Borderlands 2. So again, a lot of Borderlands to kind of consume before a potential September date. So I do wonder if it's, if it is a good, it definitely gets Borderlands back out there, but I wonder if more of a staggered release might have been wiser. And now I see Swiss rolling his eyes, so I'm curious.
Oh, I didn't. I was shaking my head while I was trying to assemble my thoughts. So these remasters and like the DLC and everything. I mean, do people really spend a significant amount of time and stuff like that? Or when a game kind of puts that out there, you might, oh, okay, I get it for free because I already own the original copy on Steam or whatever. Take it for a test spin. you get a little taste of it again for a couple of hours one afternoon, and you're like, you know what, I remember this. I had fun with it. I'm looking forward to Borderlands 3. So I don't see a remaster of a game from 2009 doing anything to negative to for an upcoming major sequel.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, right? It whets that appetite. It provides people a glimpse into a reminder of what they might have enjoyed. Um, but now my question is to Osiris Prime. What happens if if that glimpse reminds them of something they did not enjoy, or is the teaser for Borderlands 3, as some people have claimed, just too close to just more Borderlands and not actually an evolution of anything?
Well, I guess that's the thing, I suppose, is all these people are always clamoring, oh, I want Borderlands, and then kind of like what was it, a few weeks ago when I was talking about people complaining about Pokemon because obviously Pokemon Go, Let's Go, Pikachu and Eevee, uh, that that did deviate from the norm, and people were up in arms, and then we get the announcement of Sword and Shield, and people were like, oh, but it's still the same old stuff that we had before, and the old. So I mean, I think not everyone is going to be happy about what they get for Borderlands 3. That includes me, and that's not because of the game itself. Like, I always had fun on it, in 1 and 2. Actually, I played both of them a little bit more in one than I did 2. But I kind of got soured on not just Borderlands, but even just Gearbox, just because of Randy Pitchford. Just because he just came off kind of just obnoxious, and just some of the interviews I saw him in, I don't know, he just started rubbing me the wrong way, and I'm like totally off the game right now. So I don't even look at I saw a little bit of the trailer or the teaser. I never watched the whole thing, so I was just like, I don't even care now, to be honest with you. But and I guess that might bring up another topic one day of what kind of turns you off of games, even if it's it could be something either within the game, or like I said, for me it's someone who's a creator, and I believe he wrote some of the first one, maybe even the second one. But I don't know, that's just me. But just to your point, like I said, it depends on you know like I said, it's just going to be. I'm sure we're going to hear the hate that, oh, this is just there's just more Borderlands. But I think for the most part, people are going to be happy that there's a 3 coming out at some point. And I'm just going to make my prediction. It's probably going to be sometime next year, since they're not locking down a date for this year, or even like a time period. So I'm just going to say next year it's probably going to come out, I'm thinking.
Sorry, I'm doing some fact checking here to see if Pitchford was a writer on. So he was a kind of the creative lead within the original Borderlands in terms of that concept, but I do not think that he was had any writing to do with Borderlands 2. I've listened to some podcasts with some of the writers, and most of them at that point, I think Pitchford was more an executive than a developer.
Yeah.
But I do think that's a good point, right? Is Borderlands 1 happened, even Borderlands 2 happened before things like what alien colonial marines and the Duke Nukem disasters, and a lot of they've gone down a lot of
Battleborn.
yeah, well, yeah. I mean, there were plenty of Borderlands people on Battleborn, that's for sure. I think they have not had a hit in a while, so we all kind of assumed that Borderlands would have to be coming because it was really their only property left that had any potential life to it. And at the same time, this past winter, there were stories around the lawsuit against Randy Pitchford related to, in some way related to what it was, embezzlement of secrets and child pornography, and all that got wrapped, tied up in how much of it was a campaign of a disgruntled employee versus the craziness of it all sounding. And last year there was the Randy Pitchford story of him getting swindled out of millions of dollars from a former personal assistant, right? I mean, so uh, yeah, there's plenty of non-great news that has been generated out of Gearbox in recent times. So I'll be curious to see if any of that actually plays a hand in this, if that makes a difference. I think that same what you said of this is a potential topic, right? I think that same can be said for how much does the frustration or disgruntledness with EA games play into some of the challenges that Anthem has faced, or you know there was plenty of bad press around the release and development of Red Dead Redemption, but that did not necessarily stop Rockstar from selling millions of copies of it as well. So, so yes, we'll be curious. I'll come back to you on this, Prime, to see once we know a little bit more about the game, if it piques your interest, or if you have enough other stuff that you're turned off either by the game itself or by uh, the lack of professionalism around the rest of the company itself. So Swiss, I got a question before we move off of this. You're excited about Borderlands. Why are you excited about Borderlands 3? Where's your legacy, your history with the Borderlands franchise, and what makes you excited about it?
I never played Borderlands 1, and when Borderlands 2 came out, I didn't play it. It was more like I think it was like cheap on Steam, and I had read it's fun to play co-op. So, um, my brother and I both picked up, copies on sale one day, and even though it was years after the fact that the game came out, I had a lot of fun with it, and I just enjoy the game, and I enjoy like the fact that it um, really embraces co-op campaign play. Um, so you know, I pretty much just enjoy the game. I enjoy the style. The art style is neat. Some of the the humor is a little risque, but I I can tell that the developers are having fun making the game. And whenever you can feel that coming through, like the developers enjoy the fact that they're making the game, uh, you enjoy it more. So, um, we'll see if some of that drama uh, at Gearbox maybe dampens that their ability to tap into that irreverent um, humor and that like kind of sense of goofy joy. But uh, I don't know. For now, I'm just excited that there's a new one coming out.
Yeah, no, I asked because given your wife's enjoyment and discussion here on the podcast around Destiny 2,
Well,
Borderlands seems
it's
like
it's
right up.
funny that yeah, it's funny that you say that because when the trailers came out, I texted them to her, and now that she's kind of newly discovered the looter shooter, I'm kind of starting to make plans. I'm like, is it long enough after this computer build that I can get another one so that we can do some co-op? But we'll have to
Ah,
see.
the schemes of a gaming marriage. There we go. So speaking of which, next week on the Enough to Keep Going podcast, your wife will be joining us again to discuss some of her gaming activities, specifically around some Switch games. So that's great to have her back. So, any other thoughts, gentlemen, on any other PAX announcements or news that kind of caught your eye before we call it an evening?
Not necessarily PAX, but anybody getting the Genesis Mini?
I probably will look into it much more than the PlayStation one, and I think the reason being is that they announced a Genesis Mini last year,
Yep.
and then they shelved it because there was some pushback. They weren't happy with the quality. It was kind of the same emulator developer that they had done with some of the Walgreens CVS types of units, but now they're using M2 for their emulation, which is this is the company that has done the Sega Ages stuff for a long time. They did the Sega 3D games for the 3DS. They've been doing the re-releases on the Sega Ages for the Switch. So they really have given a lot of care to that emulation. So that makes me really interested to see what we get with this and how much of it will be some additional things in it as well. Will it simply just be the ROMs, or will we get things like the rewind and other types of components here?
Yeah, then they there's something about the music too. I thought they had some like famous composer or something that I guess they work with doing some
Could
of the
be.
music.
Could
Can't
be.
remember exactly.
So have you pre-ordered your console already there, sir?
No, I have not. I probably will get one, but yeah, I haven't pre-ordered it. I probably should, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what the demand is. Plus, they're still kind of like piecemealing releasing the games, so I think they're doing like 10 a week or something. They said for the next few weeks.
Oh, that's how they're trickling them out. Okay. Yeah, I know
Yeah,
there
they
were
had the
like
first 10 was Altered Beast, Castlevania, Bloodlines, Comic Zone, Doctor Robotics, Mean Bean Machine, Echo the Dolphin, Gunstar Hero, Shining Force, which I never played any of the Shining Forces, so it might be kind of interesting. Sonic, the original Sonic the Hedgehog, Space Harrier 2, and then Toe Gem and Earl, the original Toe Gem and Earl for now. That's what they have listed.
I was always a Nintendo kid, so I never had a Sega Genesis, so this doesn't really appeal to me. But that and the fact that DB mentioned I'm more excited about this than the PlayStation begs the question: is just this the fact of I was most excited about the Super NES Classic. Is this just an artifact of our ages, our collective ages, that this is what appeals to us and not the PSX Classic or whatever it's called?
I would say that is part of it. I'd also say that the PAL region emulation of the PSX Classic definitely was part of it. I think also there's something, and this I guess is probably a product of my age as well, right? That I think 16-bit and 8-bit games stand up a little bit longer because of the sprite-based work than early polygonal stuff. Um, but again, I think it really does come down to where you have an emotional attachment, right? For some people, those early PlayStation games were what they grew up with. For people who grew up in a Nintendo household, this doesn't have a whole lot of resonance. For people that grew up as the Sega sports kids within their playground group, this probably will have a lot more resonance as well.
Yeah, I had a couple of my coworkers already, sending me emails saying, "Hey, look at this!" Like, yeah, I know, I know. So they're excited about it. So, there's an audience out there for it, definitely. And I guess it's the menu music is going to be done by Streets of Rage composer Yuzo Koshiro.
Okay. Yep.
So I guess that's a big deal. For sure.
Yeah, it is. And actually, I know that they have him or her, I believe, for Streets of Rage 4 as well, which is another gameplay that came out of PAX East as well. So, all right, gentlemen, any other announcements before we head out for the night? Yeah, there was a lot of stuff. There's plenty of game footage out there, lots of good stuff that was shown off at PAX. I am probably the most excited for the fact that I'll finally get to play some No Man's Sky in VR. But we'll come back to that at a later date when it releases. So anyhow, gentlemen, again, next week we will be back with our guest as well to be into our playlists and our gaming experience show. So last week, our assignment for the playlist was to pour one out for those studios and developers and employees at EA. So with that in mind, we were tasked to go back and revisit an EA game from a studio that is no longer existing, or from a development team or a franchise that has died out or been canceled. So look for that as our Picks Plays assignment, and then we'll be looking at what we've been playing these last 2 weeks in terms of our games, and we'll see. Maybe there won't be a whole lot of mobile games on there yet, but once we get more word on Apple Arcade, we'll see, and I'm sure we'll come back to this as a topic from tonight's show as well. So for myself, DBQ Hams, Osiris Prime, and Swissgar, I want to thank you, Swissguard, not Swissgar. Arr. I want to thank you all for being here tonight on this good show before I lose my voice. All right, gentlemen, have a good night, and until next week, we'll still be enough to keep you going.